I got into horror as an early teenager, watching slashers, thrillers, and psychological horror. Dead Meat introduced me to all kinds of cool franchises. But there's one that was unlike any other that I'd seen. One that was notorious for giving an entire generation of people lifelong trauma surrounding a seemingly normal, everyday storage vehicle. This being, of course, Final Destination. Most famous for the original two movies, the first of which being a very obvious pre-9/11 movie.
Shut up, Brownie.
The concept of a character cheating death through a premonition detailing exactly how they're going to die, causing death to roll up his sleeves and start to clean up the mess is such a crazy, out there concept that there really is nothing like any other movie on the market.
No, not you.
My mum grew up on Final Destination, actually, it being one of her favourite franchises, and she is what introduced me. We watched the first two together, and I know at some point that I watched 3 and 4, but I can't really remember when. I know 3 has the roller coaster, and 4 has the racetrack, the movie theatre, and the escalators. And one of them has the tanning beds, but I don't remember which. And other than that, the rest is really a blur. Final Destination 5 I remember more because I watched it a few months ago, and with my considerable knowledge in the franchise, I can safely say that these movies are kind of bad at character writing. Obviously, some iconic characters have still come out to these movies. Alex Browning, Clear Rivers, and William Bloodsworth being the main examples. But Bloodsworth was always used more as a source of information, and a warning, an explanation to the audience, the guy who's seen this shit before. And going back to the first movie, the character... Now I like Alex, but the movie doesn't do too much at making him likable. He's kind of just an all-around guy, and that's fine. This is the first attempt at a movie like this. And this was around the time period when most of the popular horror movies had douchey teens being killed, because that makes you able to still enjoy the movie without feeling too bad for them that it's upsetting. But in a franchise like Final Destination, it's hard to enjoy the movie sometimes when all the characters are like this. FD2 was my personal favourite because of the interactions between the cast, and FD1 had everyone blaming Alex and trying to get away from him, calling him all kinds of names, or acting like they're invincible. FD2 takes more of a look at how scared people would be. Eugene breaks down and almost takes his own life. Rory has a sweet heart-to-heart where he says if anything happens to him to get rid of his drugs so his mum wouldn't worry. It's those small touches that really make for a good Final Destination movie. You need to root for the characters. Or you aren't going to be impacted nearly as much by the deaths. FD5 is guilty of this. The characters are extremely obnoxious. But I still consider it an okay movie because of how good the third act is. That aside, you might be wondering if there's a point to this tangent. Why I'm talking about the character writing of each Final Destination movie. Or you just, read the title. Well, if it isn't clear, what I'm building up to is the Final Destination Bloodlines fixed my biggest issue with the series. To outline our basic plot, Bloodlines follows Stephanie, a college student who keeps having a nightmare of a woman named Iris going to a high-rise restaurant where everything goes wrong and everyone dies brutally. She wakes up screaming every night and decides that she's had enough. She moves back home with her family, including her father, younger brother, uncle, aunt, 3 cousins, and a tortoise, who is just awesome. She's eager to find help in looking for Iris until she realizes what the premonition truly means, and Death starts to get up to his usual antics. I didn't know what to expect of Final Destination Bloodlines. The trailers for this movie are very, very good, and I figured the effects would be great. But I was still worried they'd have to deal with more unlikable characters, especially with how much attitude some of them seem to be giving. So, did it finally break the cycle and start to write genuinely compelling characters? Wait, it did? Seriously? I mean, yeah, I was surprised too, but I really like everyone in this movie. I feel like we have enough time to establish each character already. We're shown a bit of a distance side to Stephanie's brother at first, but her father welcomes her with open arms and clearly loves both of his kids very much. Stephanie herself bounces off all of her family members pretty well, and while we see that she feels a little ignored and underappreciated, they all quickly warm to her at some point, with their brother Charlie teasing her about getting bad grades and her cousins bantering about losing their pet, and making jokes about Stephanie's college. Not to mention her aunt and uncle are lovely people who are genuinely respectful and are looking out for her, while dealing with their own kids. They feel like a genuine family that don't immediately get angry at everything. This, of course, isn't the entire movie. Final Destination movies got a Final Destination. And when the bodies start dropping, oh baby, this is something special. Not only are the kills extremely complicated in the best ways imaginable, but the tension building and foreshadowing is the most prominent it has ever been. It's like every death is a puzzle. You're presented with so many pieces and you're trying to figure out which pieces go where, and BAM! You miss the most important piece, and just as you're calming down from seeing the full puzzle, out of the corner of your eye, BAM! A remaining piece fits into another puzzle! It really works with mixing up the death formula. Everything feels incredibly unique. Sometimes everything is brought to your attention, slowly showing a moving part, which has been done in the past, as it causes all kinds of havoc. Sometimes you're shown things that are just completely in plain sight, just chilling in the background, and keen-eyed viewers spot the moment before, holy shit, he's dead! Seriously, almost everything in this movie that is set up comes back later at some point. It's really great writing, and it's clear that the filmmakers were having a ton of fun with the different scenes. The effects and gore are all excellent. Perfect to be disgusting and shocking at the same time. I also like that the characters aren't denying death's presence throughout the entire movie. That's something that always makes me mad, so I'm glad they believe Stephanie too long into the movie. And speaking of the characters, this movie is surprisingly really funny. There's so much dark comedy that it works perfectly in both lightening the mood and harshening certain moments. Some of the jokes are completely visual too, not getting directly explained but being great nonetheless. And Eric, played by Richard Harmon, is by far my favorite character because of how consistently hilarious his sarcasm is. He feels realistic because that's how he copes with the stress and the underlying trauma. This entire movie focuses on generational trauma and how it can impact people's lives and childhoods, ripping people apart from each other, burning relationships down, and causing all kinds of pain and suffering as it goes down the generations. Each character is impacted in a completely different way, and it doesn't just turn them all into bitter assholes who don't speak about their feelings. I really like how it's portrayed, and honestly, it's even better than how it was done in the Halloween Requel trilogy. Don't at me. Another small thing is how positively this movie shows the healthy relationships. Eric's screensaver on his phone is his dad kissing him. And while this should go without saying, it's really reassuring to see portrayals of positive male role models. Fathers that love their sons and daughters, that are proud of them and want to see them thrive, succeed, and live, all while being able to show affection towards them. And again, this all endears us to the characters way more than any of the past movies did. The final character I'd like to talk about is William Bloodsworth. The most iconic character from this series is back, and he helps the main characters once more. Talking about how you can survive death or break the chains so we can't come for you anymore, and they make this very clear that it's the final appearance of Bloodsworth. It's likely that this was during a time period where Tony Todd was aware of his diagnosis and understood that he wasn't going to be around, or at least in a fit condition to return to the character. As such, I can safely say they handled the departure of this beloved figure with great dignity. He gets a lovely speech about time, how precious it is, how death comes for us all, but we can make the most of our lives at any given opportunity, and how we should never take our time for granted because you never know how long you have left. I think this is a great way to include the character. Having him retire means that we don't have to be saddened by him potentially dying, and I'm very glad they kept him mortal, rather than going for the popular fan theory that he is death, as much as I like that. I was very close to tears during this entire scene, and I'm very glad they gave Tony Todd his own uninterrupted section to talk not only to the characters, but to the audience. Rest in peace to a fucking king. You deserve the world, Tony, and the horror genre won't be the same without you. Even despite all of the wonderful improvements made in this entry to the series, though, I do have some small problems. You could argue that the main premise of this movie breaks the continuity of one of the rules established in Final Destination 2, although to my knowledge, that rule has never actually been proven to be true, because the character they believed could fulfill the parameters for this rule was never actually a target of death. And my second gripe is that the third act felt very short. I was loving the second act of this movie. It alternated between being very fun and heartwarming to very shocking and sad. I loved the dichotomy of emotions, and there were so many wonderful scenes involved. So seeing the third act boil down to what felt like 5 minutes of screen time was a little saddening. Some final notes I'd like to add are that the Easter eggs in this movie are wonderful. I was pointing and smiling to myself like a crushing schoolgirl on multiple accounts. This movie feels like a love letter to Final Destination as a whole, and none of that is represented better by how important the incident of this movie is. Without spoilers, of course. I absolutely loved how things were wrapped up, and the end credits are wonderfully stylized. They were a joy to watch even without a final scene. I believe the final bit of credits imply that there is still more work for Death to do, and that he isn't finished and will return for Final Destination 7. But honestly, I would be fine if this was the last movie. Everything has come to a divine culmination, and I think it'll be very hard to top this movie. But if another one does come out, I will be there no matter what. This has been a very, very good year for horror movies so far, both new and old. I'm glad to see that a long-running franchise can still find new peaks to reach amidst the incredible new IPs that are popping up every few weeks. I mean, 5 months in, and we've had Companion, Sinners, and Clown in a Cornfield. We're going to have such a fun Dead Me Horror Award show next year, guys. I already can't wait. And speaking of, there's plenty of Golden Chainsaw candidates in this movie. But I'm not here to yap about the lovely people over there. I'm here to give an arbitrary number score, so let's finish things out by giving Final Destination Bloodlines a 9 out of 10. A must-see for any Final Destination fan, and a certified hood classic. Thank you everyone for watching. More movie reviews, Marvel Rivals videos, and Pokemon Yap sessions coming soon. In the meantime, take care, alright? Bye.